Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse, where we discuss the latest DevOps news, AWS announcements, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our sweetops community, plus a live Q&A you can't find anywhere else. It's September 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, Eric Osterman. Real quick, I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse sells AWS reference architectures backed by Terraform so we can get you production ready in 2 weeks. If that sounds interesting, check out cloudposse.com. How can you maximize today's session? Well, first off, our format is very informal. You can engage as much as you like, ask questions, and if you're curious about any of our open source tools like Atmos, this is a great place to ask. And for those on the recording, we host these calls live, so don't miss out. Join us live by going to cloudposse.com/officehours. Again, cloudposse.com/officehours, where you can register and get an invite to join our weekly call. So I do have one ask. If you find any portion of today's session valuable, please share it with your team. Just head over to youtube.com/cloudposse, where you'll find a recording of this meeting in just a few hours. So with that said, here's what caught my attention this past week. All right, so first, we discussed last week that Bitnami was shutting down the public Docker registry that they had hosted. They have a last-minute reprieve and extended it until September 29th. So what that means is after September 29th, they're going to destroy the public Docker image repository that backs, hundreds of Helm charts, probably in tens of thousands of Kubernetes clusters across the world. So we ourselves did an audit at Cloud Posse through all of our component library. We've updated all of our components that were relying on Bitnami Helm charts, and those are now using alternative sources, predominantly official sources that have their own Helm charts. So check that out if you're using our reference architecture. Make sure to update. What this means is if you don't update, you're probably going to have problems with your images if any node gets life cycled. So if any Kubernetes node comes online, needs to pull that Docker image, it's not going to be found. That service will crash loop. Your existing pods will probably survive until that server is destroyed. All servers are destroyed. Any questions on the Bitnami changes? All right, next topic. So it's kind of funny, you're spending too much time on GitHub when you don't see the release note, but you notice the feature buried in the UI around the same day. I just noticed that releases now on GitHub support immutability. So GitHub, as you know, has been making a big push to secure the supply chain. Obviously, probably like 90% of open source, that pulling that number out thin air, exists on GitHub. They're doing everything to try and protect it. There's been a few big public incidents where fraudulent artifacts, fraudulent tags, etc., have been pushed, and they're making that harder to do. One of those things is immutable releases. So releases on GitHub are similar to tags. Releases add the metadata, the release notes, the artifacts, the other surrounding information on a tag. And those have been mutable. You could actually delete those, edit those, and managing those has been not well guarded. Now, GitHub has made lots of little updates over the past month. So for one thing, you can create immutable tags, but you can also now create immutable releases. So the release cannot be edited or it cannot be modified in any way or deleted. The assets themselves can't be added as well. That's an interesting, yeah, I'm guessing that's after you publish a release. Yeah, exactly. So our workflow at Cloud Posse is we create a draft release, then we attach the artifacts, then we publish it. And now that means that we can also enable the immutability of that. What I am curious about immutability and supply chain stuff, there's certain things that maybe one doesn't want to be immutable, that one actually does want to delete. I could understand delete but never recreate. That I totally get. But delete but never delete and allow a vulnerable version to be out there. Like the what was the XV attack, which basically rooted a machine. That's kind of like a release you'd want to delete. And I'm hoping there's a site, there's a channel, there's a mechanism to delete those kinds of releases.
Is this the same as immutable tags for GitHub Actions, or is this like a separate
It's similar but different. So immutable tags came first, and tags can exist without a release. And now there are immutable releases, which are a layer on top of tags that GitHub provides.
Right, gotcha.
So to make this less opaque, if we go to Cloud Posse Atmos, for example, we can see all of our tags are here. Most of these tags correspond to a release, but like the V1, that's a
sharing.
Oh, have I been? Oh yeah, this opened up in another window. Sorry, thank you. There we go. All right, do you see that? All right. Yeah. So in this case, V1 is a tag, but this is a release. And we can edit the release. In this case, we have not enabled the immutable releases on this, but we do have tag protection rules, making sure that we have immutable tags. The new feature that we're talking about is when you go to the general settings under releases, this is the new thing that you should have access to, enable release immutability, which is different from when you go to rules and rule sets. You can create, this is how we structure our rule sets at Cloud Posse. Our best practice is to create very narrowly scoped rule sets. The way that GitHub evaluates rule sets is it's a composite of all of them. So it merges all the rule sets into one, and every condition has to match. So we create one that prevents tag creation, except for some apps, and prevent version tag deletion, and so forth, using wildcard expressions.
And I'm guessing you're managing these at the org level, because this is too much for every single repo.
Yeah, we are doing that currently at Cloud Posse. So under what we have is under our, oops, that's the wrong place. Where was settings? So under repository rule sets, here's where then we define the global organizational rule sets. So that works pretty well. These can also be managed via Terraform. We are not managing them that way yet. There was also something new that I didn't know about. I was super excited about, which one of our developers just told me about. So one of the big pains we've had is when you enable really strict rule sets, it even prevented creating new repositories because there's a moment in time when the repository doesn't satisfy all the rule sets. And that is now been resolved. Let's see.
That seems like a bit of a GitHub issue.
Yeah, and it was there for a while, but there's a option now to bypass that. Where was it? Oh, status checks. So we require status checks to pass on on some things. And then this is the new feature they added. Do not require status checks on creation. And that made everything a lot easier. So. All right, any questions on release immutability or tags? All right, another little minor announcement. If you use ChatGPT, projects have been really powerful. And you know, I create a lot of projects for different domains at Cloud, for different domains of my you know, role, like legal, sales, marketing, Atmos, engineering, HR, and I organized all my conversations topically that way. But it's been annoying that that was really just a way to organize conversations, and that organization actually didn't make ChatGPT any smarter, and the memory was global. Well, now they've just made the ability to, in new projects, the memory can be localized to that project. So that's great because memory, you can get some pretty random, like, prompt injections from the memory when you're in one project because it remembers something that was said in a totally different project, and that's screwed me up many times. The downside is you have to, it's only on project creation, and it's immutable. You can't, this setting cannot be changed later. And yeah, that's what stood out to me. Any other interesting updates with this release? Anyone else know about?
I think I heard OpenAI did a IDE extension last week, which was a pretty big deal, pretty big release, and it seems very similar to their OpenAI CLI. But now it's in an IDE format, so it integrates with your VS Code, your Windsurf.
But there was a plugin before, so I'm a little confused what this is.
Mm-hmm. And you're right, because just an hour ago we were talking about there's like 4 different codexes that exist. Each are a different.
Yeah, this is what happened when you have, 2,000 employees vibe coding features every day. You get 4 implementations of the same thing.
Can't help but feel bad for security guys who are having to review each and every one of these.
Right. Yeah. That said, CodeRabbit has just gotten better and better and better. I feel like I've been really happy with its code reviews that we've been doing lately. And it has really good, like, project level domain knowledge, things that we've done throughout the pull request history. For example, in Atmos, it's catching that. So I like it. Oh yeah, this was interesting. Amazon launches Infrastructure-as-Bash, a new open source project. It's a collection of developer-focused command line, basically scripts that orchestrate the Amazon CLI, is my interpretation of it. And this is to make it easier to use AI to generate new scripts that interact with AWS. I don't know that that's a good precedent to set. There's a reason why we don't do it. I totally get it. When you got a little one-off thing, you just got to knock out, you're never going to touch it again. Okay, fine, do it that way. But the problem is this manifests in the organization, and then you have like a makefile calling bash scripts that bring up your environment and add tags later on, and it becomes mush. Yes, it's code. I don't give it any value. There's no value to that infrastructure code. It's just strictly like imperative programming of what APIs to do, but has no understanding of the state or other operations or the impact of those changes. So avoid using shell scripting like this.
And even in the off chance when it does come to like one-offs, remember back in just last year, the GCP deleting UniSuper's account as insurance companies, and the root cause being when they first started out, some developer used their CLI to create the cloud in the first place. And by default, they had a rule and policy that any developer created projects will be deleted 365 days later. That's what bit them. Even for that one-off environment, just for testing, just to get the foot through the door, still comes back.
Thanks for tying it, making it come full circle. Yeah. All right. Next one was an improvement to the GitHub repository creation piece. We've been suffering for so long with the repository creation because the status check flag thing that we recently discovered was available. So we haven't been using it. That said, now we can, and I'm excited for this. I think this screenshot really doesn't do its service because this looks like pretty much how it always has. I think what the improvement is if we go like to Cloud Posse, Terraform, AWS components, and as a member, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create a new repository. They have this field that you can fill out now here. This is really cool because if you imagine you have GitHub actions now running that read the repository settings, you can automate the scaffolding creation based on these repository settings when the repository is created. And yeah, continue configuration. Well, yeah, we're not going to go through that right now. I don't know what's on the next screen yet. I haven't tried it. I just read the announcement this morning. The other thing that's been really annoying for us is we manage GitHub apps for our own purposes at Cloud Posse. We use a lot of GitHub apps. GitHub apps are the equivalent of basically service accounts for GitHub. So historically, people used personal access tokens. You would create a bot user. This is because the whole auth story was really bad at GitHub. Now, GitHub apps have very good support for fine-grained permissions, and you can request, downscoped permissions for a particular action you want to perform. And it allows you to manage them, use them more consistently across a lot of repositories. You can also generate ephemeral GitHub tokens as part of your app execution or GitHub actions, as we use it in our GitHub action workflows. The kicker was that the org admin had to administer all those apps. I'm not sure if it was even that was enough. Maybe it was the org owner. Anyways, now you can delegate a team to manage an app, and that reduces the burden on the owner for those apps. Also for us, it's nice because when we work with customers, we can ask them to create the apps that we're going to use for our implementation, grant us temporary access to administer those and set them up and manage them for the customer until we're ready to hand off. So
I've actually had a problem with this, portions of this as well. What I ended up doing, which really sucks, is creating a it's just service accounts, right? That I would end up having. You have to give them licenses, which
yeah,
is
server like use
you eat.
actual, yeah, exactly, actual user accounts, yeah.
Yeah, so I usually just have like an RW and an RO, and the RW is an org and enterprise owner, and then allow it to do the things that it needs per whichever. But you have to eat a license, which just like, I mean, it's only 2, but it sucks.
Yeah, but is the thing you were trying to do still a limitation? Because we're using, I don't know anywhere we're still using a user anymore for anything.
Well, it would be to create the like the pat for automation within GitHub itself, right? Like if I was using Terraform to manage some of the settings, like the teams or the IDP mappings, things like that.
So yeah, okay. So what we are doing for that is because you recall that on our last call we were talking about the new component we have.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what we're doing for that is using the GitHub. We're using a GitHub app with that. Oops. And what am I doing? Cloud Posse Terraform components. Boy, am I having trouble right now.
I mean, I've seen it. I guess I didn't realize like what, maybe I didn't go through it, like what type of authentication it was performing against GitHub to make those changes.
Yeah, let's see here. Dan is actually on the call who worked on this. Dan, you can probably direct me faster
Yeah.
do we have a sample workflow where we do the token exchange?
I don't think the workflow is included in here, but the way that it works is it just uses the GitHub app to authenticate, and then just uses that level of access.
Okay. So you actually made a GitHub app for it then. Yeah.
Yeah, so we created a GitHub app, and then we're using the official GitHub action to which we use elsewhere to get a temporary GitHub token. So you don't use the GitHub app directly. You use the GitHub app to get a token, and then you use the token, and that token is in the environment so that everything else will work.
Are there limitations on that token from the org or enterprise level to
I mean,
perform
we are
actions,
using
or?
this, we're using this on GitHub Enterprise.
Mhm.
There could be controls or limits that you maybe can place on that at the enterprise level. I don't know off the top of my head, but if those controls weren't explicitly set, this definitely works.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what always sucked between the fine grain and the pat, right? Was you had to use the pat to do like enterprise admin or org admin, that, depending on whenever you made that, because they just didn't have that level of granularity built in whenever I was last looking, and before that, for the fine grain pat. So,
It is true. They have historically not supported enough, but they have lately really expanded the support of what they can do. And I shared in the Zoom chat the action that is the secret sauce that connects. You use this action here to get a temporary GitHub token, and then you use that for the rest of the execution.
Perfect. I really appreciate that.
And I shared I didn't share the full thing. Oops. I meant that. Oh, okay, I just missed the version at the end. So yeah, give that a shot and let us know if you run into anything. So yeah, this update was just now that you can delegate that now to some team so they can administer their own apps. And that's pretty nice. Last one, this is not yet released, but this is on the roadmap for the end of the year. And I thought this is pretty nice. So this would be something that at the GitHub Enterprise level, you can say what licenses you tolerate. And then this will presumably help protect you from using incompatible licenses with your software. So it's from Q4, yeah, October, December timeline. Last update here. So you'll recall on previous office hours, 1 or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the external secrets operator, which is like the most popular project for retrieving secrets from external stores and writing them as native Kubernetes secrets. It supports things like ASM, SSM, 1Password, and the list goes on. So that project was in search of maintainers, and they were going to pause releases indefinitely. Here is the latest update, what came of that. And it's kind of interesting how, they're using the Kubernetes Reddit to advertise this. So they've come up with their governance structure. They had over 300 people, raise their hand that they'd like to help. Obviously, supply chain concerns are severe in a project like this that's managing secrets. So, they're honest in saying that, nothing much is changing yet, and they're going to be ramping up on these maintainers as they build trust and so forth. But at least there is a path to maintaining this project. Separately, they talked about a CNCF application. So this is cool. They're looking at making this an official CNCF project, and then budget won't be a problem, of course, and then it'll receive the overall community support and attention that it needs by being in the CNCF. Again, this is just in the incubation stages. They're applying. They haven't checked the boxes yet. So with that, that's all I got. Any other interesting announcements this week? All right, then. Well, yeah, let's transition into Q&A. Any questions we can get answered on the call today? All right. Michael, are you on the line today? What are you up to? Oh, we don't have Michael.
I have a general question.
All right, go for it, Isaac.
You work with lots of companies, so I'm curious, beyond engineers using AI tools like Copilot or Claude Code, are you seeing wholesale adoption of any of the AI agents that promise heaven on earth? Like I know, for instance, YC companies, there are lots of agent companies there doing
Yeah.
X or Y for DevOps, for sales, for this, for that. What is your take on that? Are you seeing any of that in our field?
It's a good question. I don't know what tools the teams are using beyond everyone mentioning Claude. Claude Code or Cursor. But in terms of the other specialized AI solutions out there, we don't have any special insights into what's being adopted there. I think that's happening at a different level that we are operating at. So it's a good question. If anybody else has insights, I'd like to know. I know personally I'm feeling overload with the number of products coming out. And one I was looking at yesterday, I just started checking out a little bit more for Cloud Posse. And then when I started looking a little deeper, I quickly got cold feet and it looked really shady, like just AI generated slop. And
There is this weird thing going on as well with some companies having poured money into various AI solutions, whether that be GitHub Copilot licenses or Windsurf licenses, are now looking for some sort of ROI on that. And how do you quantify that? How do you measure quote unquote productivity, which is AI based or just regular?
yeah. Also, I mean, well, and it's, yeah. And if you weren't tracking it before and you're starting now, then you're also not getting a really good indicator either, right? You're
Right.
not
You don't
seeing
have a baseline.
yeah. So, this is where everyone would go say, something like the Dora metrics or, the deployment velocity or PRs merged or things like that.
But it is funny, you mentioned how some stats are a little bit dodgy looking, and when you take a deeper look. On Windsurf, when you log in, one of the first things it shows you on your profile page is how many lines of code or how much of a percentage of code has been written by Windsurf. And that's one of those things where it's a pretty high number. I'm not sure I agree with that. Capturing user completions, tab completions, like what counts as Windsurf status for me? And of course, they are incentivized to make that number as high as possible. So if any HR happens to be looking at the time, they want to show that these engineers, they're only working because of us. But yeah, not entirely convinced.
But it is nice that they at least have some measurable thing because you probably didn't know what it was before. I've been a huge fan of Willow Voice. We're using it, everyone at Cloud Posse. So another shout out to Willow Voice. If you haven't checked it out, check them out. You get a little function key and you can just dictate everything, but it's not just like stupid dictation. It'll like format the output and you can have a team dictionary and so forth, and the pricing is pretty competitive. Anyways, I bring all that up because I posted in the Zoom chat here kind of the dashboard that they have, and I've gotten a kick out of it. I'm a real blabbermouth. It saved me from typing 160,000 words so far.
I'm looking at the website. It even does bullet points. That's impressive.
Yeah. So formats it in a nice structured way. You can set the tone and you know you can set a profile for punctuation, for example, and how you use it that way. So this combined with your Claude Code or Cursor or whatever you're doing is awesome because you're basically just managing now engineers by talking to them. These agents. And then this is semi-related to what Isaac asked, I didn't learn this from a customer, but I learned this from one of my sales calls, to be honest. And I am crazy about it. Go to conductor.build. And this is what I've been using to knock out so many features lately. Lots of things in progress. What I love about it is it just lets you manage any number of workspaces concurrently. And this is a thin layer on top of Claude Code. So it's just Claude Code that it's using under the hood. And you can add your repositories here. It provides this screenshot here is out of date. For example, when you're on a pull request that is where the checks are passing, it'll show that the checks are passing here in the top right where it says for changed. It'll let you start your dev servers on random ports so you can interact with it. So I feel like I suddenly have a team of 10 people working that I'm just directing through instructions. Definitely check out this. All right, Chris, you were asking what we're using for our Cloud Posse landing page stack. We are hosting it. It's a Next.js app hosted on Vercel with a Neon backend, a Neon database. Sergey asks, everyone should tend to the latest TLS version. Or 1.2 for better compatibility. So the question is, yeah, should you go for the version of TLS that is more widely adopted or the most secure? I think it depends on I think it depends on a lot of things. If you're a cooking website, I think you can go with the greatest compatibility. And if you are a crypto, trading desk, then maybe you should go for the most secure. Chris also mentions Whisperflow. Is this an alternative to Willow Voice? Let's see here. Yeah, so it sounds like it. Have you been using Whisper Voice, Chris? Yeah, so he's been using that. I wonder if this is the one I tried out. There's one of these I tried out because they said they supported iOS, but it was a miserable experience on iOS, so I haven't tried it out. You basically had to tab back and forth between apps in order to get it to work, and I'm guessing that's to get around certain security mechanisms inside of iOS. And then, Chris, did you happen to use Whisperflow on iOS by any chance? And was it good? Or was it a positive or negative experience? Okay, you only tried it on Mac OS. And then Mark Tamsky shares Voice Inc., which you can just brew install. Cut off there. Voice Inc. Yeah, so it seems like there's a few of these now. All right, cool. Are you using the, Mark, are you using VoiceSync? Yeah, no update there. Just a little bit. Okay. All right, any other questions we can get answered? Oh, is VoiceSync entirely open source? Huh. GPL. Interesting. Any questions today? Any more questions?
I posted a link for MCP of for Steampipe. But I don't
Oh,
know
I
if they
missed
launches.
that. Oh,
Pretty good.
interesting. That's cool. Steampipe. Do you use Steampipe otherwise?
Yeah, for querying stuff in
Yeah,
AWS. So it's a nice tool.
that's cool. Have you tried this out yet?
Not yet. It's about to try it.
Yeah, good looking out. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
This looks super handy, especially if you have like a sprawl of AWS accounts.
Yep. Oh, and dude, have you seen the integrations for Steampipe? It's kind of like a mini Zapier kind of. So they have just hundreds of plugins, I think, for every system to query them. So
Right.
this really makes your agentic experience powerful.
Oh, just the other week I got onto using the Atlassian MCP, i.e. just Jira. Of
Yeah.
course, any project that's been running for a couple of years, we have the random dozens of projects everywhere, tickets, different epics and sprints. It sucks, I know, but it is what it is. The Atlassian MCP, genuinely, it's such a relief to be just able to type in, hey, can you find that ticket with like 2 or 3 keywords? And it does the hard work of finding the exact thing or matches.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to worry about JQL, you don't have to worry about filtering projects. It's just there for you.
That is cool. Is that an official MCP?
It is, yeah. Atlassian does it themselves.
That's nice. What else is new with you, Rashad?
Oh, it's a bit boring, but we've finally gotten onto the whole Terraform HashiCorp contract is coming to a close end of this year. And since 5 years ago, the contract has risen by a magnitude of 10. So we've already made the decision of time to go open source.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So you've had a Terraform Enterprise license or cloud contract for a long time.
Probably more specifically, it's a HashiCorp Enterprise. So we never really used the Terraform cloud stuff, but we used Vault Enterprise, we used Nomad Enterprise, Console Enterprise. That was our kind of main stack for a wee while. And then, magnitude raised. So now we're into the journey of going all into open source or seeing if it's possible. And for most things, it seems easy enough. Like the Terraform to OpenTofu, no issues there.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams are using Atlantis, which I'm not a fan of, but that's open source as well. We can easily switch binaries. What has been a bit of a weird one is the Vault to OpenBell. That's not quite as straightforward. And
What is the status of that one? I'm so curious the status of OpenBow because the original big backers of that were IBM, and then IBM bought HashiCorp.
Spot on, yeah. We weren't too sure either. And then last week they did a release. So it seems like there is some sort of active engagement, active development going on.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things where the OpenTofu project seems a lot better supported, both in terms of like funding and the engineers, like the ones they've been there from the foundation are still there. With OpenBell, I'm not entirely sure what like which companies are sponsoring it. Are they actively still there? Are there employees? Is it all open source contributors? Not entirely clear what that looks like.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been picked up by the CNCF yet, unlike Atlantis and unlike OpenTofu. So maybe they've got some ways to go.
Is Atlantis officially in now?
I
forget.
believe it is, yes. They did a release like a couple of weeks back, and the first line of the release notes was, "We're at the CNCF or something."
Oh, cool.
We did talk about this in our office. Like, really? Atlantis? What did they say?
Yeah, what or did we make the announcement? For some reason I'm not.
So it looks like, oh, I'll place a link here from the from the CNCF.io
In
website.
July.
Apparently in June or July they got accepted,
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't realize.
All right. 3 weeks ago. Okay, they were okay, so that's the update is that 3 weeks ago Atlantis is fully onboarded to CNCF.
I still don't know what they see in the project, but okay.
Yeah, oh, it is an easy way to get up and running with a opinionated stack and implementation. But sounds like you
That
need
is,
to tell your company about these GitHub actions you've been working on.
I know, right? It's been a bit of a struggle, honestly, getting to kind of modernize using GitHub Actions. Hey, we're also paying for GitHub. Why not use all the features, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the Vault to Open BIOS transition, that's always a little bit of a fun one, not least because secrets. How do you manage them? How do you migrate them? What if someone looks at them? Do we rotate everything? What about the keys you can't rotate? Bit of a crazy.
Yeah, I would not like to be involved on that project.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out there is like one or two features that hasn't been ported over just yet. One of which is DC to TC cross sync. Pretty rare thing you probably don't need, but if you have to have customers who need data availability in multiple regions and multiple data centers, we used to get that as part of Vault Enterprise. OpenPOW doesn't really have that. So now we're at the stage of, do we just write a script to do it for us and just have it run on a cron? Is that safe? What if it breaks? I don't know.
Yeah, that's where the rough edges come in and the glue scripts and all of that. Yeah.
And the worst thing that came up was, of all the kind of open source forks that have come up for Terraform, for Vault, strangely nothing for Nomad. I think Nomad, or yeah, it just exists, it works, it's been working for many years. Yeah, I just don't know what that's about.
Open hot pot.
Open new, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting observation. I mean, no, I hear only good things about Nomad for the most part. But maybe Nomad had done a better job, predominantly not attracting. What was Nomad itself also BS or MPL when it came out?
Oh, good cue. I don't know off the top of my head. Nomad licensing change. I would imagine so, but I don't know for sure. Oh yeah, there we go. Nomad was NPL as well, and then it
Yeah.
changed to the so.
So yeah, that is interesting. That there wasn't enough movement behind that to get a fork, but
And you're spot on as well. Like Nomad is still the mainstay in so many home labs. It's simple, it works, and it lets you do most of everything. Like it's still better than Amazon ECS nowadays. It does
yeah.
quite a lot of things. Admittedly, the joke answer is the open source Nomad is Kubernetes, but I don't know. I don't know about that.
That took me a little while to process that, but yeah, I gotcha.
It's a bit of a leap. It's a bit of a I don't know how
Yeah.
about
Or maybe what is it? K9S or what's the K3S? That's the one.
That's right. Yeah.
Status of K. We've been using K3S in our CI pipeline and it works pretty well. Lightweight.
It's one of those things you realize that Kubernetes, for all its things, like it's made for very big companies or very big traffic problems. You can get away with a lightweight version for things. Turns out not everyone has Google scale problems.
Yeah, which is why I didn't really talk about this, but Crossplane did come out with their 2.0 version. So they
Ooh.
keep ticking. It's a project that loves to be loved and loves to be hated. Pretty polarizing. But lately, I feel like I've been seeing a lot more. What's the word? A lot more headwinds for the project. It seems like as there are not that many production instances that come out and talk about it. Positively, at least. All right. Other questions?
I see one in chat about Talos.
Talos.
New
Why
to
does
me.
that sound so familiar? Oh, is this the Linux?
Yeah,
No.
it's a kind of like an immutable OS for Kubernetes. It's pretty cool actually. I tried setting up.
I was thinking about the new one that DHH announced that they were managing their own Linux distro now, but this is different, I think, right? This is okay, designed for Kubernetes. So this makes me think of Bottle Rocket then.
Yes, yes. Photon, Battle Rocket. There's a few. There was a K3 OS, but they abandoned it from Rancher.
Hmm. You know what? I thought Core OS was dead, but Core OS is back and like a mainstream project of Fedora now. I thought the project was entirely abandoned, but they have current releases and everything.
Ooh, interesting. AWS is their primary sponsor, is it?
Hmm. Yeah, sure. Or if it's just a image rendering problem.
Right, that's true.
All right. If no more questions, we can wrap things up early. I guess I do have one question. Two things. So I saw Warp, somebody brought up Warp Dev, and they just announced today that they have a new offering. What was it? Like the agentic development environment. So I'm curious what this is, if this is like similar to that, is this just another VS Code fork?
I think it's a total rewrite of the way they handle shell. So everything is written in Rust,
Hmm.
and they're trying to do like everything from shell.
Which makes me think of a little bit of Claude Code and then Conductor, which wraps or sits on top of it. So I was just curious. But
Yeah,
this here is clearly an IDE here, which is not a terminal first. Like this is the new thing they announced today or something I saw in my inbox. You can see that it looks like a conventional IDE. It looks very cursor-like.
So I've been using it. I just saw this. Thank you for pointing this out. But I've been using it terminal as my main terminal for a while. And agentic stuff I'll do is say like, format this image in all the pixel sizes for LinkedIn, Calendly, all these different
Yeah.
platforms. And if you give it a bunch of CLIs like FFmpeg, all this different stuff, it can just go and just like do a ton of stuff. I just like load CLIs and I just say like warp, like do this.
Yeah. No, it is good at that, I've noticed. So I guess this is just the natural evolution from that is they've built a great terminal, if you will. Now, I guess they're to reach a wider developer audience. I guess they're adding the IDE. Hmm.
They also have some specific integration with Whisper. I haven't done a ton with it, but it's on my to-do list.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah, I should try it out. All right. Soon repos are going to have like a dozen of these agentic MD files. They're just like, oh my God. Next week, we're going to announce Atmos.md. No, I'm joking.
Nice.
And a framework to manage all the MD files from a template or something like that.
Exactly, right? I'm just joking on that. So, all right.
Create a super agent.
Yeah, the super agent. All right. Well, looks like we've run out of material for today, folks. I think we'll be back next week at the same time, same place. If you haven't yet registered for our weekly office hours, you can do that at cloudposse.com/office hours, and you'll get the invite in your inbox. We also will be posting this to our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/cloudposse if there's something you want to refer back to or share with your team. Lastly, if you are interested in any support from Cloud Posse, we have lots of support options to provide like Red Hat-like support on top of our open source ecosystem. That is how we operate as a company, is providing support on that. So check it out if that would be a force multiplier for your team. Go to cloudposse.com/support. With that said, we will be back next week at the same time, same place, and look forward to seeing what news has come up then. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Jeremy, I didn't see your message until now. You always got those zingers.